Gee, I've been looking forward to showing you this. This is the Vanquish Products VS4-10. Ain't she a beauty? Vanquish has been making amazing stuff for years. I had their version 1 dig unit and I bought it secondhand back in 2013. It's really good. The F10 portal axles, partly from where the VS4-10 gets its name, are plastic. It's a premium truck, but it's at the cheaper end of premium. I haven't got a driver in it yet, but the interior is pretty. Now I finished mine in orange, just a splash of blue, that's a sticker, but everything else is paint. And I thought I'd stripe the seats orange as well. It's a brilliant open cage rear style, and there's a spot for a tire if you want it. But then if you want to change between, I think, 6% and 33% overdrive and unlocked, you need a 3-position switch for the front. And likewise for the dig, you need a 3-position switch for the back if you want locked, engaged, or just disengaged and freewheeling. The GT5 allows me to do that. I've got channel 4, which is a 3-position switch. So I've got engaged, freewheeling and locked for the dig. And I've got a dial on top that gives me from 33 to disengage to 6% for the front, for overdrive. I went with gunmetal and masked off some areas for orange. So really just the hood, part of that little rear assembly there, and the seats. So they were just masked off, and then painted in, I painted the body in gunmetal and finished the rest of it in orange. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of polycarbonate, and you've got some plastics as well. Now, it's a semi-hinge, well, it's a locking pin. It's not so much a hinge. You could set it up to be a hinge, but the way the body fits in is it doesn't really hinge very far, but that's your locking assembly, and it's just 2 small pins at the back. Now, I've had this thing for weeks, and I've had the body finished for weeks, and I've had this thing built for weeks, but it hasn't been drivable until yesterday because this transmission and the manual that came with it, and to a lesser, and to an equal third extent, I struggle with instructions sometimes. I've built a lot of models, but I struggle sometimes with the conceptual positioning and things. There's a gear underneath this cover that is really similar to an idler gear inside, further down, sorry. And I pulled this thing apart 5 times, but I also noticed that they've stuck a link to updated manual sheets near the top of the page. The manual has a few errors and some oversights. There were some simple things like labeling upper and upper links instead of saying upper and lower links, and I found a few other minor things. I marked them in pen in the manual. Ultimately, it's of little consequence because they've released an update now, but even the updated one still shows the error. And it shows an E-clip that is meant to go in front of an idler gear, and then it shows a second E-clip later on, but it never shows you in that second picture where the first E-clip should be, so it's easy to miss and think you're just doing 1 E-clip when actually you need 2. And if you don't do that second one, it can slide, and I had this problem the whole time until yesterday when I sat down. I did nothing else. I've got a WP1060 I had lying around. I've got the Holmes 40-turn Expert 5-pole brushed motor, and I've got just the WP5323LV Servos for the shifting duties for the front and rear parts of the twin transmission, the VFD transmission. And I've got the Holmes, I bought this the day before John Robert Holmes announced on Twitter that he was releasing the 650. This is the SHV500 V3. It's a brushless 12-volt servo. They've now released a 650, which is, I think, 25% more torque, still at 12 volts. Anyway, this thing has a direct feed from the 3S LiPo, or 2S, it'll run okay, but it gets 12 volts directly from the LiPo. And so the 1060 really just has to provide BEC power for the shifting servos and for the radio, and lights if I add them, which I probably won't, because this is a dedicated crawler. Now the wheels were an interesting thing. Inside you've got these adapters, and I've actually chosen, it comes with 2 different widths. That's the one to use, the narrow one. I went wider just because it's a personal preference for comp crawling trucks I've got. but the clearance is such that although the track's wider, the loss of pumpkin clearance, which is offset in the front and centered in the rear, I should say, it's offset by having portals, and the wheels aren't tiny either. Now, there's not a scratch on this thing because I haven't driven it yet. One thing I really like about the any brushless servo, but the Holmes SHV 500, is just how fast it is and also how strong it is. So I'm holding the truck just by the wheel. That's how strong this servo is. It can lift the 3 kilo truck and do it quickly without even trying. Okay, so we've got 2 servos. Now my rear one, the DIG, I'm using channel 4, and when I actuate that, you can actually see it underneath better. It's engaged, middle position, it's freewheeling, and then locked. This is everything engaged. Freewheel, so the wheels are it's just front wheel drive, and then DIG is engaged. And that, my friends, is a DIG. Now the front is on a dial, and I've currently got it set to freewheeling. That's 6% overdrive, 33% overdrive, and I'm just manipulating the 6th dial here. And when I do that, it's moving this guy here. I had to use a shorter length horn, and I had to cut down, hopefully you can see that, I had to shave the plastic off half of this end, this ball end, the link end, you can see there. That's so that it would fit when it was up that end and engaged. I was having trouble, and when it was out further, there was too much throw. So I've had to do a little trimming and jiggling and mucking around to get it right, but now it's in, it's all good. The last thing I'll add is that the shocks, when I put them together, they have a bleed valve at the top, and they're adjustable. Having taken this thing apart 4 or 5 times, I'm very familiar with its internals now. Pulling the transmission out is actually pretty straightforward. It's 2 bolts there, there's a bolt at the back, 2 bolts there, and 1 at the bottom. It sounds like a lot, but it's really actually quite straightforward. The drive shafts are quite good. The links present a lovely flat undercarriage. I like how they've finished. There's plenty of missing plastic from these. It's weight saving really, but also quite strong the way they built it. So all of these fins, they're quite a durable plastic. I like how the body mounts as well. It goes on really easily. You get the back on first. Now this thing can only go in one way because there's a little hole in the plastic on the right. So you've got to take this in from the left. And the hole I mentioned is for the legs of the body pin to go up underneath. So that's the front in. That's how far it hinges open. So it's good enough for changing batteries on the trail to use 2 pins. And when you want to pull it apart completely, it really is just 3 pins and that beam. I've really been looking forward to this very point now. I'm going to punt it around our 6 problem course. I'm just going to have a closer look here. Once I've had 10 or 15 minutes driving this thing, I'll start to get a feel for how to place this rig better. Now the front's only on 6% right now, as we were saying. If I disengage the rear and just let it freewheel, we can drag the front around. So right now the front, I've left it locked to show you, the front is on 33%, the rear is just on freewheel, it's in that mid position. And you watch the rear wheels turn as now I add a little bit of throttle. The front dragging the rig around and the rear just follows. We'll re-engage the rear, I'll put the front back to 6% and we'll go on to problem 2. When's the best time to use overdrive? The best time to use overdrive is when you are trying to turn sharply and you don't want the rig to continue forward, you want it just to be pulled around. A situation like this, for maximum traction, I would be preferring less overdrive. And 6% is acceptable. That's better. I want to see the rear go around and the front to kind of fall in. I could even disengage the rear at this point. It's not locked, it's just disengaged. Now I'll engage it because I'm seeing traction. So what we're going to do now is come across this way because we're getting hung up on the higher part of the rock. So if we bring it this way, it'll be on a more uncomfortable angle, but it will ensure that the wheels stay on the ground. At this point, I'm kind of regretting making the front wider. For this size wheel, I think maybe keeping it as narrow, the track as narrow as the rear would have been better. But those beautiful grippy wheels means we can still walk it up. So right now we're actually making up for the clearance problem I introduced by making it too wide. But these tyres are so grippy, it was able to put up with that. Now at this point, I'm actually going to put overdrive on the front. I know I'm taking my time here and just playing, but it's kind of fun. What I'm looking for then, because I can do it, and this is a review, is we can kind of go for an ideal line every time. And in this case, having that overdrive helped it. And look at it just kind of pour its way down. And remember guys, this is using a 1060 ESC. So just to be totally clear, I'm using the cheapest ESC, the 1060, and it's still absolutely adequate for a brushed system. So what we're going to do, I'll come back over this side, you don't need to see my face. Rear is engaged. And we'll save that extra excessive overdrive for when we need to turn sharply. There. Locking the rear was helpful then. Pulled it round. The tyre deformation, I don't know. It's half pulling off the front right tyre. We're gonna, yeah, that's it. Get it to fall down. Keep that tyre really engaged. This is where the width of the front track is helpful. Although I think I don't want this extra width most of the time. We're gonna lock the rear. No. Yeah. I think clearance is still actually a bit of a problem. Interestingly. Yeah. Okay. So it did it, but it was by the skin of its teeth, and I think this wider front track, being so much wider than the rear, is a big part of the problem. I will change to the more narrow one, but first we'll finish this test. So that's problem 3, let's do problem 4. Okay, on to problem 4. Again, the front's on 6% overdrive only. The rear is clearly engaged. Look at that. That's the strength of the servo reefing that wheel into shape, or out of shape. The tyres are actually pretty nice. I think they're going to be the kind of rubber that get better with age. At this point, some treads would actually be a little slippery from just the rock dust that's on them, or a little bit of soil. These are still maintaining traction. Oh dear. I think this truck would be interesting with brushless, actually. All right, that's where we were. So we'll drop back a bit, then I thought that would have been enough. Try it again. Ah, no. Yeah, this would be interesting with a little more power, actually, and that narrower front. We'll give it a bit of juice now. So as you've heard me say before, I try slow until slow doesn't work, and then we'll try fast. All right. Possibly. All right, I keep coming to grief in the same spots, so I thought we'd change the camera angle. This thing would benefit from a little more weight down low, and this is where perhaps the heavier axles or some knuckle weights, or I don't like to say it, but even just heavier wheels would be advantageous here, because we keep flipping. and I've fallen off here a bunch. Put it back where it was, roughly. I often cut a lot of these failures out just for brevity, so the videos don't go for 20 minutes. Oh dear, but we've fallen off this quite a lot. I've just locked the rear, not that it did anything. So this truck is technically good enough to do this problem, but possibly the width I've introduced with those front wheel adapters is working against us here. It's awfully close. Now this is nearly where we were just before. I've locked the rear, and I wonder, yeah, we're on a pivot point. I couldn't have recovered that without a dig. Not that it's done us much good. I'll try and lock in the dig again. It's so close to falling. I don't know that we can do anything about this. Yeah. All right. We're gonna actually give problem 4 a miss. We gave it a bunch of attempts. Okay, problem 5. Overdrives at 6% in the front. The dig was on. Overdrives at 6% in the front. This, better than anywhere else, shows you the issue with this wider front I've stuck in. The wheels aren't big enough. So I've actually hurt its performance a little. Not to worry. Let my poor choice be a cautionary tale. I'm expecting the Vanquish should just walk this problem, honestly. So the rear's engaged, front's on 6%. There we go. Now line choice is a big deal in any kind of crawl. Now I could see something you couldn't see. The front wheel was next to a rock and I needed to get it to fall down a bit so I could grab the rock. But grab the rock it did. So there we go. Problem 5 is done. Here we are, the infamous problem 6. Now this couldn't do problem 4. And often problem 4 is an indicator of problem 6. However, in this case, what stopped us on 4 was that wider front track I've introduced. It was an option that came with the kit, but I regret doing it. I should have kept the same slimmer track as on the rear. That problem won't be an issue here because we're getting over a big round rock. So I actually rather expect it will do 6. There we go. So the rest of this should be straightforward as long as we have clearance underneath, which we don't. Locking the rear. Oh. That's quite pretty. Rear's engaged again. You see that front tire? It's really, it was working hard. Rear is freewheeling currently. The reason for that is I don't want it to come off the rock. I just want to move it back. Yeah, okay. So she tips pretty easily. The weight is too high still. This thing's fallen on its roof a heap today, and that's a bit of a weakness. There we go. So look underneath the truck. I know the light contrast makes this hard, but it's currently sitting on the skid. And what you want is one of those back wheels to be getting purchase. That currently isn't happening. Okay, this will be my final attempt at problem 6. We've got a center of gravity issue and a front track width issue, I think. The front track I can correct easily enough. The width, yeah, that's just those wheel adapters, but the center of gravity is a bigger problem. These tyres are a little on the dusty side. I think this here, this might be the only line we can do this. Let's see. Ah, it sits on the skid right at that crucial angle. And now we've lost it. Ah. There. No, it's bottoming out. Oh, all right. This body's a bit worse for wear. And it's hard to see with this light, but this corner has taken an absolute beating. It's the Lexan's actually cracked on that corner. Nature just threw a rock at me. It's, yeah, this part of the body here, these top bits, they're going to get destroyed. The rear corners have also taken an absolute beating. Front's okay. This is a technical masterpiece. I love it. The tyres are, I think, okay. They're going to need some more time to bed in a bit. I might give them a wash and a clean. The lugs are actually quite smooth. I wonder whether grooving them might help. We did 4 out of 6 problems. I was expecting all 6, to be honest. She's quite a top-heavy beastie. Now, I handicapped things a bit with this wider track. The rear is more narrow than the front, and that's on account of these adapters. That only accounts for 5mm each side though, so that's just part of it. As far as raw performance goes out of the box, it's all right. Center of gravity can be addressed with even just weighted wheels, even though I prefer not to have rotational mass. Having knuckle weights, or failing that because of this wheel design, just having brass portal outers perhaps, something just to get 80 to 110 grams on each corner, particularly in the front, but all 4 would be helpful. This thing rolls a lot, and the poor old body has just had an absolute hiding. Granted, I was just doing some fairly technically challenging stuff here. It's designed to be challenging, it's designed to test its side healing, it's designed to test how well it can steer, it's designed to test traction, and it's designed to test breakover angle or your clearance, both with the pumpkins and also with the skid. This thing had some real clear-over issues, and it had some center of gravity issues that saw it tumbling. I couldn't get traction where I wanted it, and I think the tyres are a bit stiff. I think a modification to these tyres would be good. I might try this again, I'll just swap the wheels completely with a weighted set, maybe one of the good performing ones I've got from previous tests, like the crawlers, the BF Goodrich crawlers, and I suspect the outcome might be better. As far as using it with its little party trick, the dig is a welcome addition. I quite like that. The adjustable overdrive is cool. Most of the time you're going to want 6%, honestly. Having 33 available is nice. It's like a soft dig almost. And often I freewheel the wheel where it could just spin without being driven and without being locked. So just freewheeling that was good. Overall, I'm glad the Phoenix exists. I'm glad Vanquish have released it. It is quite pretty. It's fun to drive. It needs a little bit of work. I'll come back to you with the narrow front track and some weighted wheels. If nothing else, we'll see how that affects our outcome. For now, I'd give this 3.5 rocks out of 5. I like it. I think it has a lot of potential, and I look forward to playing with it some more. It certainly has good features where they need to be. We've got metal where there needs to be metal. There's as tight as a drum. There's no movement, no lateral movement where you don't want there to be. The chassis is untwistable within reason. So it's very well engineered. This is, as I said, it's an engineering masterpiece. It needs some work to be a crawling beastie, but it's already quite good. I think there's room for improvement. Throw me a like if you got something out of this. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm going to get out of the rain. I'll catch you next time on RC-TNT.